Hello and welcome back to Finding Atoria, a weekly TTRPG podcast where a group of friends gets together to discuss everything in the TTRPG gaming world and a little bit about our own world of Atoria. This week, a little bit different. We are very lucky to have a guest in studio today and an interview ahead of us with Dr. Christina Stiso, discussing what is rapidly becoming our favorite game and our topic of interest here in the studio. And we're very lucky to have the time to discuss Leviathan Rising, the new TTRPG from Dr. Christina Stiso and Oddfish Games. I have Arcadia here as a co-host.
Hello.
And then we do have Dr. Christina Stiso in the studio remotely for an interview this evening. Would you mind saying hello?
Hello.
Wonderful.
It's nice to be here.
Wonderful
We're so
stuff.
excited to have you.
We really are, and what we wanted to do today was get into a little bit about not only you, Christina, but the game that is rapidly becoming one of the focal points of the next year's contributions to TTRPGs from independent gaming studios. Would you start us off with a little bit? First of all, this is your second time on the podcast, and I have to tell you that last time you were just my good friend Christina Stiso, and I did not have to put the perfunctory doctor in front of it. Tell us a little bit about your journey to that and in TTRPGs in general. I know that some of our listeners listened the first time, but would love to know more.
Yeah, so I have since, graduated. I got my FUD. But yeah, so like I've been playing games for a really long time, and it's when my PhD was in education, and when I started studying education, one of the things that I quickly sort of found out was that games and education have a lot in common. So when you play games, you learn things. And when you learn really well when you're playing games. And so through my studies, I sort of meshed these two ideas. I've read a lot of the work that's being done about game-based learning. And, that became a central part of my academic life. And as I was sort of working on that in the background, I was sort of putting together my own games. And one of those is Leviathan Rising.
And so was that always the endpoint outcome, maybe not from the education, but from the convalescence of the hobby and the education? Were you always going to put out a game, or was it something that was going to be your ability to teach through that gaming methodology, your ability to translate that medium, or did you always want to come out with something of your own?
I'm not sure I ever intended to actually write a game.
Whoops.
Yeah. It's one of those things that just kind of happened. On the Epic Adventure podcast, we were talking about different games that we'd love to see out there. And one of the games that I would have loved to play, but never really had a system for, was sort of disaster and kaiju stories.
Right.
And no one else had made it, so why not me?
And that does, it falls.
I love that was the question. Why not me?
And maybe it answers my follow-up, but with that education, with that understanding of gameplay resonating in education and how we learn from the activity, you had an absolute endless varietal menu of places you could go for a theme of a game. And you came to kaiju, you came to world crisis consideration. Why that and why now? Why did we not do a zombie game? Why did we not do a vampire game? What led you to kaiju, and why are we seeing Leviathan Rising in this iteration now?
Yeah, well, as I was sort of saying before, I think one of the main reasons why I went this route is because I hadn't come across another game that really did it justice.
Correct.
You could play a Godzilla story with just about any game out there, but I always felt like there was missing something, or there was too much that I had to do on my own to sort of homebrew that system to really get the kinds of stories and the kinds of experiences that I wanted out of it. So yeah, that's the reason why. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just the question I have is like, and partially because when we play the game, it is sort of movie-esque. Game playing, movies, books, it's all just different forms of storytelling.
Yeah.
So what do you think that playing a TTRPG about kaiju brings to the table differently than the movies, the books, things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I really enjoy about disaster and kaiju stories is the difficult choices that the central characters have to make. That's sort of like the heart of a lot of disasters. And, in a movie and in a fiction that you consume, those choices are already made for you. The author decides what choices the characters make and why. The thing with the TTRPG is that choice, that agency becomes yours. And that's what I really wanted to get out of this game, was to create an engine whereby those really difficult choices that come up in disaster movies, like, do I sacrifice myself to save the world, sort of take center stage.
Exactly.
And, you can actually play those stories out with yourself in the driver's seat.
And it does lend to, and I'll tip the hand for anybody who hasn't, listened to the podcast yet. We've played the game. We've had Christina run us through a game. We are familiar with the game and its iterations. And one of the things that strikes me that I think kind of lends into what you're talking about from that cinematic standpoint is that agency. And one of the very coolest things about Leviathan Rising that struck me playing the game and then running the game in its iteration that I was able to was the success choice matrix of the game. And and that divorcing yourself as a player from the idea that what the dice do tells me if I was able to do what I wanted to do. Could you speak a little bit about how that's formatted in the game, maybe why you came up with it, and what it offers from a role-playing standpoint? Yeah.
So in the rule book, I call this the platinum rule of Leviathan. Basically, like one of the central conjectures that I had going into this game was that the dice don't determine the outcome. So, in most games, like every game that I've played, when you roll the dice, if you get a good roll, it determines that your outcome is good. And if you get a bad roll, it determines that your outcome is bad. You can't sort of be like, and there's, lots of times like I'll roll the dice where I really want to succeed and I don't. And sometimes that can be a little annoying. Most games have a caveat in there where you can always choose to fail, but there's very little where you can choose to succeed.
Right.
There's
besides that, look at the game master and going, I really, 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 really want to do this. You know what I mean? So within the mechanics, you came up with a way to speak to this narrative within the players' conference. So tell me about that and how the game was structured from it.
Yeah. So basically from this idea, so the push towards agency, towards more player agency, really, it's been going for a long time. Like Powered by the Apocalypse really kicked that off in a lot of ways, and this is sort of like taking the next step from there. So like Powered by the Apocalypse has the player always rolls, the GM doesn't roll. Now it's the player decides the outcome.
Yeah.
And from there, you still have to create a system where it's gamified. Because if the players are always just succeeding, because, you probably mostly want your characters to succeed.
Yes, I would like to win.
That's not fun. That doesn't create drama. Yeah. So the way I sort of chose to do that is the dice don't determine the outcome, but the dice determine what it's going to cost to succeed.
The conditions of success.
It is my almost, I don't know, maybe favorite thing about this entire system. is that change in view how the dice function.
And we ran this for people, Christina. You should see people's faces when they roll and they're like, I am effed. And you go, no, you're not. And to bounce it back to them with that one little tennis maneuver back across the net to the player and say, no, here's your agency in the final outcome with these criterion is just genius.
Yeah.
So can I ask, like, is that something that you had to sit and ponder, like, how do I make some, like, or is this like something that just came to, like, I don't know. I'm curious, how did you develop the boosts and drags
behind the green curtain, if you would, Wizard?
Right. Yeah. So to sort of, Mike and I, Mike at Oddfish Games, we'd been working on designing a game together for about 2 years at that point. And we'd come to the conclusion that we were both trying to design different games. And Leviathan Rising is me taking what Mike and I started with and taking it in my own direction. Boosts and drags are something that we'd had in the original system where, you get certain, it's just the pluses and minuses, the goods and the bads. We originally called them boons and banes.
Sure.
So that's where that came from. But the focus on agency was that amount of agency and that sort of dice mechanic where the player always chooses was my sort of twist on that little mechanic. And the idea of like everything just sort of like the system went through at least 5 or 6 different iterations before I even got to the core of what is there today. That's how design always works. It always takes several iterations. I tried a bunch of different things. Like I have dozens of different dice mechanics just written out on different documents discussing all this. And this is one that just sort of, it pulled together a couple things from a couple different games. Like I was really thinking about Powered by the Apocalypse, and I was also really thinking about Fiasco.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with Fiasco.
A little bit of chaos element in there?
Yeah. They do some really interesting stuff with their dice pools where, each different dice is either good or bad, and you narrate the outcomes based on the thing. And combining that with some of the design principles that I already had eventually led me to this idea.
Now, you are the absolute executive of Segway here, because when we talk about those outcomes, and one of the things that I remember not only listening to you on the Epic Adventure podcast several times, but then playing games with you, Christina, you like a clock.
Yeah.
You like the idea that things are going to get progressively, maybe not worse most of the time, but different over a certain amount of time. I think that the power in evoking role-playing skill in not enforcing or not fabricating, but allowing space for group dynamic of problem solving, of skills and those natures, comes from the idea that this is finite. There's going to be some really weird, potentially bad shit happen, and soon. And by the way, here's a thing on your table called a Geiger Counter.
Yeah.
Which for all of us that rose up as children under the heady times of hiding under school desks from certain nuclear death, really kind of resonates with. Tell us a little bit about A, that mechanic, B, how you think it feeds into gameplay, and where did you come up with this idea to just get your players intrinsically aligned with Crisis from the jump? It's such a great thing. I'll shut up. Go ahead. Yeah,
no problem. So the Geiger counter or the doomsday clock, one or the other, hopefully it's going to be like a physical thing that sits on the table if you're playing in person. If you're playing virtually, you have to sort of make it a virtual thing, but it's a clock that ticks between 1 and 12. There's 12 spaces on there, and basically when things don't go your way, when things don't go the player character's way, one of the possible consequences is that that clock advances. So, it'll tick up from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. And as that clock ticks up, that clock is a physicalization of the stakes of the game. Because when that clock gets to 12, a crisis happens. And when the crisis happens, that's the moment when, the T-Rex comes out of the cage in Jurassic Park. It's the moment Godzilla comes out of the ocean. It's the moment when everything changes.
Right.
When it's no longer a story about, it's no longer a story about adventure. It's a story about survival now.
You go from your investigation and your integration into the plot line and what is somewhat, depending on how you do it and where you go, a relatively normal RPG experience to this out of control. We cannot handle it. We're outmatched. Yeah. This is now we need to survive. We'd like some more people to survive too if we can help them. But it totally changes the game, and it is one of those things, whether you've got that physical counter on the table or not, in my mind, it's not so difficult for the players to envision this countdown, that 1 to 12 progression of as shit potentially gets worse, we get closer to that. And I'm talking over Katie, as I always do in interviews.
No, you're not.
Okay.
But I do have a question.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I absolutely love about when the crisis hits is that you really move from a, I don't know, I don't want to say, sort of typical TTRPG scenario, but you really are in a countdown at that point. And it's very different from, like, say, using a timer for, like, rounds during a battle or anything like this, because in watching you run this game at Gen Con, I saw how it really, really impacts when you get into those multiple rounds after the crisis hits, and that every round you're adding a crisis die, and it gets harder and harder and harder not to have drags on your actions. That is sort of brilliant, and I guess like where it really definitively puts the players on a timeline. You cannot successfully resolve the game if you dink around.
Right.
Like you
it behooves you to get busy.
Yeah, like every round you have to be accomplishing something to try to resolve the solution. And that solution is, I would think, rarely killing the monster because you're just not capable. So it puts you in this rock and hard place position of really having to use your intelligence to try to solve the problem in a different way. I absolutely love how that scenario forces you, honestly, to play a role-playing game a little bit differently, in my opinion. So all of that to be said for the question of what got you going there? Like, how did that develop?
Yeah, so the idea for the clock, earlier in that year, before I'd started working on Leviathan, I'd been playing a game of Band of Blades with with my group at Oddfish. And Band of Blades is a game that uses a lot of clocks. And there was some really interesting stuff the clocks did, but I was having some trouble getting the group to interact with the clocks as much as I wanted. So as I sort of eventually came up with this crisis system and the descending dice pools, I thought, well, how do I really get the players to care about the clock? Do you make it harder for them to do the thing they're always doing, which is rolling?
Yep. And then inject some chaos into it.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. There is nothing like learning a dice system and going through a game, and then all of a sudden your dice rolls no longer mean what they were intended. Yeah. It is beautiful. It is crisp. I love it.
Yeah, you're talking about the cards.
Oh, sorry, I did. I segued forward and I cut you off again. I like talking about your
No, that's
game,
fine.
obviously, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, great. Like the main thing. So in a crisis, generally speaking, rolling more dice is bad in this game.
Which is a whole other thing we haven't touched on that I again think, when you sit down to play it, you're like, what? We always want the most dice. And then you think through the logic of the math. And
The
you're
math
like,
doesn't play out that way, does it?
Math.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So yeah, you spend most of your time trying to get smaller dice pools. When we enter a crisis, the dice pools just get bigger because you have this entire second pool of dice that's being added, and it gets progressively bigger as the crisis goes on. But on top of that, you're drawing crisis cards, and the cards are one of the most novel things about this, because during a crisis, whenever you roll, you draw a card, and the card tells you what the dice mean.
Which is absolutely insane. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be divisive here, but come the hell on for a second. Like, we've got a growing pool of dice that are going to encumber us enough. You're like, no. You read the dice? Well, they don't mean that. And that, to me, is just beautiful.
To be fair, sometimes the card helps.
It does.
Oh, yeah. You tell them what you want them to know.
Really good.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Tell them. They are.
Yeah.
They are. I'm just messing around.
Yeah, I mean, the cards run the gamut, and like a lot of them, so one of the cards just switches what a success and a failure is. So, normally 1s and 2s are drags and 5s and 6s are boosts. There's this one card and then there just switches it. So now 5s and 6s are drags and 1s and 2s are boosts. Cool. So you'll roll the dice and you'll get. This happened at Gen Con, actually. Someone rolled the dice and they got like 12 6s, not 12, they got like 8 6s. And like, oh, this is amazing. And they drew that card and flipped it on its head. And they're like, oh, geez, this is the worst thing ever.
See, that is.
I'm like, oh, that's great.
But walk with me here. That's the chaos that can happen when an ancient kaiju unearths themselves.
Right.
And that is because when you do it matters. To what degree you do it matters, and the level of volatility and the chaos from the card draw matters so much. And I just remember when we played looking across at people and I was like, okay, we got a result. And you're like, yeah, well, you did, but it's not the one you thought. And that level of, because you want to interject chaos and chaotic times in a game. And it's so difficult to do because everyone has their proficiencies, everyone has their equipment, their skills, their action economy. And you go, okay, great, fantastic. You've done it all so well, but. And I love that. I don't think it robs player agency at all. I think it adds and highlights the fact that you are cinematically dropping players into the ultimate of chaotic terms.
Yeah. And like the cards are really interesting. It was fun coming up with the different mechanics for them because, some of them take the character's greatest strength and turn it into a weakness.
Nerfing.
Which is one of my favorite things that happens in film.
Yes.
Is when something that the central character, that it's been their strength the entire time, when that becomes their weakness, and vice versa, when their greatest weakness becomes their greatest strength.
Absolutely. Great arc stuff.
Those moments are so great in film, but it's so hard to make them happen sort of organically in games.
It's different.
Yeah, the cards are sort of my attempt to get that level of chaos and surprise back in there.
So I want to do some other questions, and I don't want to neuter these great explanations that you're doing. What I'd like to do is just for pro forma on the podcast is take a quick break, and then we come back. I want to talk a little bit about what these kaiju, these things that we're encountering within this world and with this in the game, and then maybe move forward to some rapid fire questions that everyone would like to ask Dr. Christina Stiso, the creator of Leviathan Rising. Can we take a quick break, guys?
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back on Finding Atoria.
What do you do when the monsters are real? Leviathan Rising, the upcoming tabletop role-playing game from Dr. Christina Stiso and Oddfish Games, throws you into a world of giant monsters, paranormal mysteries, and impossible decisions. As elite agents protecting humanity, you'll investigate the unknown, outsmart terrifying creatures, and rely on a unique, wonderfully chaotic action system where every mission can change the world. Leviathan Rising, the sleep of reason breeds monsters.
This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. The Finding Atoria podcast is looking for guests for our upcoming episodes. Are you or someone you know passionate about the TTRPG community and have a story to share? If so, contact us on our socials or reach out at wordleafmedia.com/findingatoria. And now back to your program. Welcome back from the break on Finding Atoria. We are lucky enough to have Dr. Christina Stiso in studio today discussing the Oddfish Games production of Leviathan Rising. I have Arcadia in the studio, but I have talked over her so much that she's probably gone to bed by now. I apologize. I want to jump right back into a conversation that we were having, Christina, with the mechanics, the build of this game, and not that I am an authority by any means, but one of the things that really stuck out to me, and one of the things that I grade a lot of TTRPGs on, are their use of the prototypical monster. And you don't have prototypical monsters to start with. These are massive, kaijus in there. But you did a good job, in my opinion, in the game of making these adversaries, these monsters, these elements that you were going to encounter within the game intelligent enough to be motivated by things that they want, things that they are there to do, and then also within these characteristics have not frailties, but weaknesses, things that they are adverse to. So if you would jump in and talk a little bit about how you built what the player's going to run up against in Leviathan.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's all sorts of threats that you can encounter, from something gigantic and unkillable like Godzilla all the way down to, the street thug that just happens to be getting in your way. And when I approached designing this, I wanted to do something a little bit different, because one of the things that I hate keeping track of as a GM is health. When I've got a group of enemies, I do not like keeping track of individual hit points and all sorts of little fiddly numbers for bunches of different creatures and mobs out there. So I tried to come up with something a little more simplified. Enemies can take damage, they can take hits, but most of them aren't sort of defeated that way. When you create threats or obstacles, the director, the person, the game runner, the GM, is asked to give them a couple of what I call vulnerabilities. And these can be whatever they want, whatever you want them to be. If you have a giant monster that's mostly goo or gel, what sorts of vulnerabilities does it have? Probably not getting hit or shot, but maybe it's weak to electricity or being diluted in water.
So just ways that you could encounter and interact with these that would not be beneficial to them. Okay, fair and good.
And so then the idea is that if the party is trying to defeat this monster, they have to find some of these vulnerabilities.
Versus a pedantic reduction of hit points. Stabby for 37 rounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the way that you defeat giant monsters is like they do in the movies. You investigate and figure out what its weaknesses are, and then you exploit them using all the resources at your disposal. And when you exploit a vulnerability, you score victory.
Lovely.
And when you score enough victories, the threat sort of is no longer a threat.
So you are deterring, you are not destroying. You are, and what I love so much about this game, and why it goes back to a few other games that I'm not going to draw parallels to, but you've played them, you know them, and not that you borrowed from them, but what is presented very well in the game to me is this phase of investigation and this phase of coming to know the anomaly, coming to understand through, interviewing people, research, whatever it is. There's this investigation phase that is so vital, to the point where if you get to the crisis without it, you're just kind of left there with either dumb luck or rudimentary, methods. Like I'm going to put a pack of TNT underneath it and see. No, you don't know anything about it. So the investigation portion that you poured into the game that allows the skills of the characters, which we're not going to go in and do a deep dive on the whole game right now. We can, but talking to Christina is very important to me in the idea that all of this came from a brain space. All of this that we're enjoying right now was methodology from you. So I want to, if I can here, if Katie doesn't cut me off and I haven't stolen too much of her time, I want to play in that brain space a little bit. I want to hit you with a couple of questions. Are you okay with this? Oh, did I lose you? I lost you.
That you can do with them is identify what do they want? Like, do we need to defeat them, or can we say, hey, go out in the desert and I'll give you all the electricity you could ever want, Yeah. Like a solution doesn't have to look like killing the monster.
In a very rare kaiju attack, I was thrown off of this interview, technically, for about 5 minutes, and I like to apologize. I don't know what happened. Some would call it user error, but if I shut it down and restarted it, I'm probably summoning something, I think is what we can agree on.
I just asked Christina a question. I want to see what she said.
Thank you.
I had an answer prepared. Can you just refresh me on the question real quick?
I was just bringing out the idea that with these monsters, it's not always about necessarily defeating them. That, it could be, hey, you're tapped into the electrical grid. Can I give you an electrical grid out in the middle of the desert where you won't be hurting any humans? Killing them is such a rare opportunity. You know, that you have to find other solutions. So what led you to that, I guess, route of resolution for interaction with the big bad? Yeah.
Primarily, I watched a lot of movies. If you watch a lot of Godzilla movies, I think it's only like one or two that Godzilla dies.
Right.
It's the first one, it's Shin Godzilla, and I think Godzilla versus Destroya. It's very rare that Godzilla actually dies. Godzilla is defeated. Godzilla is deterred. Godzilla is bargained with, or other monsters make a deal with Godzilla.
Appeased and sent back into the water, right?
Yeah, appeased. And that so rarely happened in my games, and I wanted to make that more of a focus because, these monsters are iconic, and they're forces of nature. That's what they are embodiments of. And the way that you defeat a hurricane is not by punching it. The way you defeat a hurricane is by planning ahead and responding quickly and correctly when it hits. And that's how you should be responding to kaiju.
There should be some sort of I'm resolved to the idea I can't defeat this thing. There needs to be some sort of middle ground where I'm not looking for coexistence where I put 20,000 tons of fish on a shore on November 1st, and then but we can't kill it. If we do, it's at an overwhelming cost to society, and what we are better served in doing is understanding it better. And that's what I got from the Leviathan Rising character as an agency member of Leviathan, is that I'm out there to understand. I am out there to know more so that we can do better collectively. Now, troubles aside on the IT angle, I had a couple of questions to throw out to you. And I if you guys already covered this while I was coming back from the dregs of non-connectivity, let me know. But we've mentioned a lot of them and a lot of variations of them. Christina, do you have a favorite kaiju movie? Your go-to?
It's really hard to choose anything other than the original Godzilla.
I mean, it started it all, right? And when you say original, put a year on that.
1954.
Thank you very much, because a lot of people would look at you and say 2000 and something, and that's sacrilege,
no.
and I'd like to trip them in the hallway.
Yeah, 1954. Though I will say both Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1 were both really good as well.
Godzilla -1 may have been a step up, in my opinion, from what had been coming out recently. So I'm just going to keep us going. I'm going rapid fire here. No wrong answers. We know your favorite kaiju movie. Who's your favorite movie monster? And this may just be a softball, but when you go to monster movies, who do you like to watch?
I have a particular soft spot for Gamera.
Really? An adversary of?
Gamera is just the total opposite of Godzilla in a lot of ways. He's just like, he's this super goofy guy. He's the friend of all children. Like, my first exposure to kaiju movies was through Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you got the cynic's take first.
So, yeah,
because it was almost like
stories.
that goofy librarian archetype coming on time and then kicking the hell out of Godzilla. That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to keep it moving, because this is actually I would revisit number 2 as often as I could. That's a great answer. Okay, quick rapid fire. Here we go. Ocean monster or underground monster?
Ooh, I got to go with ocean.
Okay, ancient monster or alien monster?
Ooh, that's hard. They're both so good. I like ancients.
Underground ancient monster. Okay, would you prefer, Christina, an intelligent kaiju or just some unstoppable Tarrasque force?
I think intelligent is more interesting.
Okay, so if you're going in, are you going in as scientist or soldier?
Oh, I gotta go in as a scientist.
I figured you might be. And that kind of goes into my next one. Are you going to fight it or are you going to talk to it?
Oh, gotta talk to it.
Got to figure out what's going on there. Rapid fire, keep it going. Best city in the world for a giant monster to destroy. Personal feelings included.
I was going to say, let's not get too psychological on this one.
If it's coming out of the ground somewhere, where do you want it coming out of the ground? Yeah.
You know, there is a city that is destroyed by a kaiju utterly in the fiction of Leviathan Rising, so I'm going to go ahead and go with San Diego.
San Diego. Sorry, guys. We want you to buy the book, but we're hoping that you go down for the lore. Okay, keeping it moving here. One fictional character that you would recruit into the Leviathan Agency.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thank you. Stage, screen, or any otherwise, who would you love to put on the badge of Leviathan?
My gut was to say every character played by Christopher Lee.
Let's go. Let's go. Including the fact that he dropped a punk rock album at age 82. Yes. Let's go, Christopher Lee. If you can hunt Nazis and drop punk rock albums 7 decades later, I'm down with you. Okay, so I'm with that. Katie, it's such a good question. I'm going to throw it to you. Leviathan Rising, give me one fictional character that you would have in there.
Oh my gosh. Wasn't prepared for that.
I know, that's why I asked.
A fictional character in Leviathan.
Who are you recruiting to the agency?
Oh my goodness. There's so many. I am in an East Asian phase right now.
Okay.
So,
P.S. Dump your boyfriend.
I am going to say, in East Asian mythology, there are the human embodiments of the four winds, and the god.
Are you going Big Trouble in Little China on me right now?
No,
Because I almost went Jack Burton.
Is the god of martial arts,
Okay,
as well as many other things. He is very intriguing. He's represented by a combined animal of a snake and a turtle, but he also has a human form. I would choose him because I think he could, interact with the monster animal side of things, and if necessary, he could kick ass.
Okay, well, my answer is much shorter. Darth Maul. All right, moving on. Next question. Come on, Leviathan Agent Darth Maul? Let's go.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a specific thing that's, kaiju versus Jedi now.
I tell you what, we'll get the licensing handled and we'll do that podcast next week for sure.
Although now my problem is on my answer, I'm picturing, I don't know if you've seen the images of the different winds out of East Asian mythology, but like the turtle and snake god, that's all like one combined creature. I'm like, okay, now maybe not Leviathan agency person, but maybe a really great kaiju.
Yeah.
From the annals of Shell and Wang. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to move us forward here with the last question that I have, and I really wanted to spend a little time on this. But one monster, Christina, that you absolutely do not want to discover is real. What is too scary for Leviathan? What is absolutely untouchable in your fear matrix?
Oh, man, that's a difficult one.
What could rise from the ground from your cinematic or literature history that you just would not want to face as a kaiju?
Yeah, like me personally.
Yes.
So, oh God, there's so many like Asian monsters out there that are just terrifying. But as a kaiju, like one thing that I just do not want to truck with is centipedes.
Oh,
giant centipede.
So many legs. So many legs. Okay,
No,
I'm with
thank you.
Yeah, and what's weird about history is they used to be like school bus size.
Yeah,
like literally,
exactly.
honestly, outside of fantasy, used to be school bus size. And no, I'm with you actually on the centipede. Katie, I'm going to throw it over to you. If there is a monster, if there is a form, if there is an adversary from history, mystery, or lore that you don't want to see as a Leviathan agent, what's it going to be? Because I'm writing an entire campaign around it.
Like it's stuck in my head. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, get the creepy crawlies off of us, Christina. Damn.
Right.
I could have said giant tapeworm.
Oh, enough already. Okay, no. Mega Tick does not live either. I'm done. Okay, now I'm creeped out and I'm going to end the interview. Oh my goodness. All right. Nope. Sorry, Katie. Back to you. While my skin crawls over tapeworm magna.
Right. No. Gigantic bugs are a big no. Yeah. I don't know. Something that scares me. Oh, this would be really bad. This will just tell everybody how horrible and ridiculous my childhood fears are. I was absolutely terrified of Chucky. So
a kaiju coming from the ground.
Yes,
and
like
kids'
that.
overalls with it.
I just that for some reason, even as an adult, like I'm just like, nope, don't want to see it, don't want to mention it, don't want to think about it. And my kids are like, you could just punt it, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but I was way too young when I watched that, so that would be my trigger.
That's a
fear.
fantastic answer. Now I've got to turn it around to me, and I'm probably going to not do the question justice because it's an inanimate fictional object. But if for some reason the Bog of Eternal Stench from the Labyrinth was ever a kaiju, first of all, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry openly because I can smell it. Can you guys not smell it when it comes on the screen? I smell it every damn time. And when their toes get close to it, I'm like, it's going to come up and grab its ankle. It's sentient. It's the bog of eternal stench. So if you came out the ground in San Diego with the La Brea tar pit of eternal stench close by, now I'm hiding under the covers. So, all right, very, very good stuff. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Christina is fantastically busy right now, if you did not know. And what we would like to talk about as we wrap up our episode today on Finding Atoria with Dr. Christina Stiso about the Leviathan Rising game is a little bit of a hot light and uncomfortable chair, my friend. What are you working on? What's coming, and what can people that are interested in this and love the same things that we love expect from the product, the property, and the schedule?
Yeah, so we are planning to take this to crowdfunding.
Oh wow!
Likely Kickstarter. We're eyeing mid-January.
Oh, that's ambitious. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we're getting, it's going to take all the months leading up to that to prepare for that, but so that's what we're working on at the moment, is getting that all set up, and that's the date we're shooting for. We're hoping to have our our pre-launch page up soon.
Sure.
So once, I don't have that information now, but you can certainly find some information on the Oddfish Games website.
And that's what I wanted to kind of give them is even though there's going to be so much to do and so many places to get involved with soon, right now we can go to oddfishgames.com. We can purchase the Leviathan Rising SRD and we can play a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can purchase the Quick Start.
Quick Start, yes, the Quick Start guide. And I can tell you from playing this, number one, you have everything that you need to play the game, no questions asked. And then if Christina doesn't like punch me behind the paywall here, I've had the opportunity to run the game. You can run the game with this Quick Start guide as well. So you are fully functional going out to oddfishgames.com and downloading the Quick Start guide for Leviathan Rising. But wait, it gets better. What we're looking at, I believe, is the ability for folks to go out and support this effort, which is going to be a beautiful book from what I understand. We're not giving the store away on this interview. I want 2 or 3 more from Christina before we get out of this. But a fantastic book outcoming, and please check out the crowdfunding sources, the Kickstarters, the places that we are going to find the graduated version, the full playbook for Leviathan Rising in upcoming months. I don't want to put dates on anybody's head because it's too weird to do now, but know that we as a podcast, Arcadia, Tori, Jess, myself, are glued to this with Ooey Bluey, and we cannot wait to hear more and tell you folks more about it. So, Katie, I know you had some things that you wanted to say over the last hour and 20 minutes or more that I've just been talking. Jeez, I'm sorry. I feel comfortable hearing my voice. I should probably recognize it.
Yes, you do.
Sorry.
Christina,
Yeah.
do you see this being here's the game book and that's the world? Or do you envision something more, or is that open to change and develop as things progress?
I mean, I see this as something that can progress. Depending on how the Kickstarter does, there's a bunch of other, setting books that I have in mind to expand the setting. So the main setting takes place in 1960s, but, there's a whole history of that world that, goes into the modern day, that goes into cyberpunk, that goes into the far future.
You have just made Malcolm's year.
Leviathan 2049. I'm so down with the.
You're muted.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but it was probably better that I was muted because this is not my baby and I don't want to cuddle it too closely. But yeah, when you say future, like Leviathan 2149, like, come on. There is a richness of the world and an opportunity in the lore to take it many spaces. But I'm sorry that I jumped in. I'll mute again. I'll keep talking, but I'll be on mute.
Yeah. So, I've got that. There's also like the system, the Leviathan engine can be used for other settings. And I have at least one really good idea that I want to get out there. And theoretically, that'll happen if this Kickstarter blows up. If it doesn't, might be a Kickstarter for a later date. But, there's certainly other kinds of stories that the system can tell, and, beyond just kaiju.
Can we, just take a minute on that, because I think it's something that I recognize, Arcadia recognized, and is obvious if you get near the game. You've taken a fantastic engine and inserted it into a very playable and lovable world. But what you've done with the mechanics, and I'm reticent to say it because I am a homebrew butcher. I take what I love from games, take what I love from game systems, and I'm intelligent enough, well-versed enough that I amalgamate them into my system. The problem is we don't get it as pure. We don't get it as true as when Dr. Christina Stiso came up with it, dropped the pronunciation of the name, dropped the mechanic in, and then I didn't even think about the fact that you could, from a different storyline aspect, from a different narrative aspect, take those same beautiful features of the crisis, of the success dynamic, and play those into another. But I like doing them with big kaijus and fantastic organizations. So that's where I'm at. I'm sorry if I mispronounce names. Once again, I'm over my word count, so we'll be billing Katie extra for this episode.
Christina, when someone walks away from the table after playing Leviathan Rising, what's your hope? What's your hope for what they're talking about, what they take away from the game?
My hope is that they walk away talking about choices. The hard choices that they had to make, and the sacrifices that the characters and they through the characters sort of did, because that's what disaster stories are all about, is choices. And that's what I want people to be talking about. And that's the thing that, having run this game several times, that's the thing that I keep talking about. And that's the thing that I want everyone who plays this game to talk about after playing it themselves.
It's not clean victory. It's not easy heroics. It is crisis response.
Yeah, it's sort of weighing. It's a constant weighing of, can I sacrifice this to get this? Toward, especially once you're in that crisis mode.
Well, I want everyone to say whatever else they want to say, but then I am going to go into my heavily scripted plug situation, because I really want people, if you're listening, if you like games, and I'm kind of in the same frame of mind as Christina, that there was just a gap there. You could go out and you could amalgamate a Tarrasque in your D&D game. You could go out and you could plug in a large construct into certain games. You could do small bits and pieces of what we've all kind of wanted to do with monsters, crisis, and confrontation in worlds and RPGs, and try to piece it together, but it does not come so cleanly and is well written as what we find with Leviathan Rising. And then you do not get what Dr. Christina Stiso. See, I said it like perfect one time. There it was, right there. It's the doctor that messes me up, but it's so important right now. Do you do it on your Starbucks orders? Yeah. Can I? I would. I tell you what. Yeah.
I personally don't, but all of my characters insist upon it.
Absolutely. That was the best answer ever. All of the NPCs would have it no other way. Absolutely.
Oh, exactly. There's the Big Bang Theory where they're going around, hello, doctor, hello, doctor.
Doctor, hello, doctor. Mr. Yes. So Mr. Williams will go back to the point, which is just to say that there is many ways that you can interact with the current version of this game, and I highly recommend them. If you were at Gen Con, this game was tested there. There were fantastic experiences. The mechanics, the lore, the setting, and the system that Dr. Stiso has brought to this game is worth noting as unique and preferable in the sea of games that are coming out right now. We will continue our dive into it as a podcast. But at this point in time, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your time. We are so excited to see what comes from this. And Katie, do you have any other questions? Do we have, what didn't I cover?
I think you're good. I think we got it.
I'm just going to say that we're playing it again this Friday. So, yeah.
Oh, heck right.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. We'll get into the midst of that. We are not a live play podcast, but I will do recaps as we need them.
Nice.
Christina, anything else that you would like the people to know about A, the game, B, how to access it right now? I know that we did a plug for oddfishgames.com, but let them know what to expect.
Yeah. So follow Oddfish on social media. I think I don't look for @oddfishgames. That's spelled exactly like it sounds. ODDFISH games. One word for Oddfish. Will be as soon as we get the pre-backing Kickstarter page up, that'll be posted all over there, and from there we'll sort of be doing hopefully regular updates on sort of like, design diaries. If you want to be involved, there might be like voting on like, hey, choose the next kaiju that becomes the
I
official
love that.
kaiju.
Yeah, that
Like
interactive aspect.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping is coming.
That's awesome. So what we would like to do from the Finding Atoria side is that we are centrally located in a certain area in the Midwest, which most of us are. And there are those fantastic local friendly game shops that welcome in new games, new groups. So please tune into Finding Atoria social media to see where we might have an opportunity, if not Christina, then a somewhat worthy substitute running Leviathan Rising at your local game shop as we gear up for this fantastic release. Christina, thank you so much for your time. Arcadia, thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah.
We are probably going to revisit this in many layers very soon. We might have some announcements coming up, but none of us are going to trip over ourselves because the hype of what is here is very real, and oddfishgames.com to interact with the quick start guide for Leviathan Rising is what we are telling you today. A worthy game, a fantastic creator, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Christina.
All right, we're going to tell them. We're going to tell them bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. Find us at wordleafmedia.com/Finding Atoria if you or anyone you know has stories or other good things to say about TTRPGs. Get a hold of us. You can find us on all the social medias.
This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. Are you interested in sharing stories of your favorite TTRPG experiences? If so, reach out at www.wordleafmedia.com/contact us on our socials, or you can now leave a comment on your favorite Finding Atoria episode at our Wordleaf Media YouTube channel.